Oh, why hello, Meg.
Hello.
Welcome to Puppet Via Elementary School. Are you ready for your first question?
Sure am.
Alright. Comprehension activities and instruction are very different for kindergarten and second grade. Would you please describe the approaches you would take for instruction for those two grades, and let us know why those approaches are developmentally appropriate?
Sure. As kindergarten students are generally not able to read independently and do not have an incredibly rich vocabulary, my instruction would be focused mainly on comprehension acquisition. That is, I would help students to learn how to comprehend. It is very difficult for students to understand a book about something such as the life cycle of butterflies if they do not know what butterflies are. Therefore, an important goal in my instruction would be to expose the children to many new vocabulary words through activities such as field trips or show-and-tell class discussions. I would teach vocabulary in both whole group and small group settings in order to differentiate instruction. I would frequently revisit vocabulary words so that children can reuse the words and be more likely to remember them when they come up in read-alouds or class discussions. Because kindergarten students cannot read independently, comprehension development is largely reliant on students listening to books being read to them. And because greater vocabulary contributes to a greater level of comprehension, I would read lots of books with rich vocabulary to the students in order to build their comprehension skills and model fluency. I would reread books as much as possible and use a variety of nonfiction and fiction books in a variety of genres. Comprehension is often developed through discussions about books. To maximize student participation in discussions, I would choose books that students could relate to on some level. In addition, I would teach smaller differentiated groups for these discussions to pose questions based on students' levels and introduce important comprehension skills such as prediction and retelling. Finally, I would try to link books to other learning activities to constantly reinforce important concepts and vocabulary from the books. By the time students reach second grade, they generally have a solid grasp of the differences between fiction and nonfiction and can read independently. I would use aspects of 3 integrated strategies for comprehension instruction, including reciprocal teaching, transactional strategies instruction, and concept-oriented instruction.
Oh.
All of these strategies emphasize a high level of interaction with a piece of text that goes beyond a surface level comprehension of that text. This includes activating students' high knowledge, asking them to make predictions about a story, having students ask and answer questions,
visualize events, clarify things that have happened in a story, summarize events, and synthesize information into graphic organizers such as Venn diagrams, story maps, and character maps. I would also make sure to help students compare books and stories to other things they have read. Reciprocal teaching and concept-oriented instruction also emphasize the importance of students' abilities to communicate important ideas and information to others, thereby linking comprehension to oral language development. I would make sure that discussion of text takes place in a variety of formats, such as small differentiated learning groups, whole group, and pairs. Like kindergarten, rereading and making connections to real life are important in second grade comprehension instruction. But due to the fact that students are able to read independently, I would integrate teaching analytical comprehension skills into my instruction. I would also continue to help students to build a rich vocabulary so that they can practice independent reading and reading in order to learn new information. Finally, I would use read-alouds and comprehension instruction in the second grade in order to model fluency for the students and use those read-alouds as springboards for other literacy activities.
Great answer, Meg. Alright, next question. We have an increasing number of English language learners in our school. How would you modify your instruction to promote their oral language development?
Well, listening and speaking occur before reading and writing, so it is especially important to focus on oral language development for English language learners. Oral language skills are also important for higher level thinking processes and social development. As English language learners are likely to be self-conscious about being different from their peers in terms of language and culture, I would strive to create a welcoming classroom environment by using classroom activities that promote respect and acceptance among students. In terms of instruction, I would provide scaffolding for ELL students by implementing consistent instructions and routines and using additional linguistic support tools such as vocabulary cards with picture support. I would also use rich picture support giving directions. I would be respectful to ELL students' native languages and try not to use too many English-specific expressions that might be difficult for ELL students to understand. I would encourage all students to work with each other in order to promote a positive and comfortable environment. I would pair ELL students with English-speaking students for think, pair, share activities and other group work so that they can interact with and get academic help from their peers. A lot of classroom discussion is generated from what is read to students in books, and books are often linked to students' lives in order to encourage increased discussion and participation. Therefore, I would make a concerted effort to use books that have topics about other cultures and customs so that ELL students can share their experiences with the class and feel proud and willing to participate in discussion. Finally, I would include activities such as drama that have a speaking role for every student so that ELL students are always included in the oral language learning process.
Oh, that's a refreshing perspective, Meg. Now finally, we have openings in preschool and in first grade. Would you please describe how you would address word level instruction for both of those grades? Are there any specific techniques or programs you feel should be included?
Well, pre-K students cannot read or write independently. Therefore, my word level instruction would be based significantly on auditory learning. Pre-K is an important grade for starting to develop students' concept of word, knowledge of rhyme, knowledge of syllables, and ability to identify the beginning sounds in words. Therefore, it would be important for me to recite simple poems and nursery rhymes with students, either in small groups or whole group setting, while pointing to each word, so that the students can be exposed to rhyme and build familiarity with text. Furthermore, this would help students to start to understand that text is used to represent spoken words. I would use songs and poems to teach students to recognize rhyming words. By being familiar with songs and seeing me point to individual words, my students would start to notice separate words and spaces on a page and possibly be able to point to a word. I would also lead discussions with students, listening to specific words from a poem or song to help them figure out the beginning sound of a word. In terms of writing, I would model forming letters so that students can practice forming letters using writing implements, practice writing their own name, and use invented spelling for unknown words. Great strides are made in terms of literacy learning in the first grade as students start developing reading and writing skills at a fast rate. Therefore, my word level instruction would need to be relatively intense. I would use analytic phonics instruction in the classroom so that students learn how to break whole words into phonemes, recognize onset rhyme patterns, and recognize beginning and ending sounds and blends. I would also make use of synthetic phonics instruction so that students are able to take letters and make phonemes, and then use the phonemes to make words.
Aha!
I would advocate the use of instructional tools like Word Detective in the classroom so that students could practice manipulating and changing certain parts of words to form new words. My students would also do activities such as word sorts, in which they can compare common spelling features in words. Some of the expected accomplishments of first grade students include counting syllables, counting sounds in words, recognizing and making rhymes, and being able to spell using beginning and ending sounds, blends, digraphs, and short vowels. That said, it is important to acknowledge that students have extremely varied literacy levels in first grade, and therefore my word level study instruction would either be individual instruction or instruction in small, differentiated groups to ensure maximum learning and literacy growth from each student.
Wow, Meg. Now, is Professor Smolkin your teacher?
She is.
I can tell.